Hi, I'm Charlie Frost, and on this week's episode of the 24MX Workshop, I'm going to demonstrate how to change the tyre on a dirt bike. Don't go anywhere. Now, the first job when changing the front tyre is to make sure that you have the wheel disc side facing down, because if you do it with the disc facing upwards, you can slip and cut your fingers on the disc. So we're going to flip the tyre around and have the wheel facing disc side down. So when we're doing tyre lever motion, we're not going to slip and cut our hands. So the first job is we're going to slacken off the rim lock, allowing us to remove the tyre. So the 13mm spanner, we're going to slacken off the one rim lock. Being a front wheel, it's only got one rim lock on it, so we'll slacken that one off. Now we're not going to take the nut all the way off, we're going to give it a bit of play so we can move the rim lock as and when we need to. So we're going to leave it just at the end so we've got some space to push the rim lock in and out when we need to. Now with the tyre machine, what we're going to do is use this lever to push down on the first side of the bead to almost break the bead, giving ourselves more movement to change the tyre. So I normally start from just past the rim lock this side and just going to push down on the bead just to make it easier when using the levers. So now the wheel's on the tyre machine. In Enduro, we run mousses. Now mousses are a solid ring of foam which stops us from getting punctures. So in the new tyre, you can see here, if I just demonstrate to you the difference, a mousse works like that. It's a solid piece of foam, spongy, but obviously it stops us from getting punctures out on the trails or when we're racing. So in this tyre in here, we do have a mousse, but I'll show you also when using a tube the difference. So the first job on this is we're going to insert the tie levers around here. I tend to use 3 or 4 tie levers just to make it easier so it's not so tight when taking the tyre off. Now the first thing we're going to do is put the tie levers around here using this tyre lever machine. So we're going to insert the first one. I normally start just past the rim lock and go around here. So we'll go about 3 inches to the right of the rim lock and then put the first tie lever in using the machine lever, and then, like I said, about a finger and thumb width apart, I'm going to put the next lever, so about here. Now when putting the tie levers in, with mousses you can get away with sort of being quite aggressive, but obviously when using tubes you've got to be careful you don't pinch them. So when inserting the tie levers, if you're using tubes, just be careful you don't nick the tube with the end of the lever. So for instance, when you slide it in like here, obviously watch that last part, you don't nick the tube. But with a mousse, like I said, you can be quite aggressive and just get the levers in there. So last lever in, then we'll go back to the first lever now. I'm simply going to pull down on the lever, but being careful that when you pull down the lever, these levers don't want to pop out. So keep an eye on them. Pull the first lever down and then work in a clockwise rotation. Second lever, third, and obviously fourth. So we'll slide the tie levers back out. Watch when it scratch the rim. With a mousse now, I can simply flip the wheel over and push down on the tyre and push the tyre completely off of the rim, so it's a lot quicker. Whereas with the tube, you'd have to continue your whole way around this side of the rim, taking the tyre off, and then you get to the valve and you push the valve out of the rim, feed it back through the hole, and then pull the tube all the way out of the tyre and then remove the tyre. But like I said, with mousses, you can simply flip the wheel over now, making sure that this part of the tyre is up that end, as we're going to use a lever machine to push down on it. So flip the wheel over, so we've got disc side up. Like I said, we've now got that part of the tyre, as you can see, is already halfway off. I normally go around the tyre once to push the tyre off this side, and then I'll push down through and take the tyre off completely. So as you can see, I'm going to push down, pushing the tyre off of the first side. So as you can see now, all the way around, the tyre is now off of this side, and then simply going to push down through the tyre with this machine and push the tyre off completely. So like that, keeping my hand on this side to push the weight down so the tyre doesn't come back onto the rim. Simply go around bit by bit, and you'll get so far until you can basically push it off with your hand like that. And then obviously the rim lock is still engaged, so you're going to lift the tyre off the rim lock, and then that's the first step done. We've also got the rim and the tyre and mousse down there. So old tyre and mousse we're going to put to one side. Going to put the rim back on the machine. Now same again, same process. We're going to put the disc facing downwards so don't slip and hit our knuckles. And I always like to keep the rim lock, what I'd say at 6 o'clock down here, because you always start with the rim lock when fitting the new tyre. So as you can see here, we've got new tyre and new mousse ready to go. Now these tyres are directional, so on the tyre you want to make sure you keep an eye on the arrows showing which direction the tyre goes. So obviously we're going to fit it as it is, so that's correct. But with the mousses, like I said, you can be a lot more aggressive with these, and it's a lot easier. With the tubes, you'd have to have the tube in place of the tyre first, and then slip the rim onto the valve, do the locking nut up, and then work your way around bit by bit. Whereas the mousses, you can simply get the rim lock, push it out like that, then slide the downside of the rim lock into the tyre, so we know that the bottom half of the tyre is going to go on correctly. So now that the rim lock is in place, I'm going to push against it with my knee, and we're going to use one tyre lever to work our way around the first half of the tyre. So starting here, we're going to push down like that, working our way around. Same again, just being careful the levers don't slip out. And now that there's a bit of pressure on the tyre, I can move away from the rim lock because it's not going to come out. Gonna go around to this side, pushing down. And should be the last one. No, do one more, like that. So now we're going to push down, and we've got the first side of the tyre onto the rim. So now we just need to get this side of the tyre onto the rim. Obviously, like I said, with mousses, we can be quite firm with this. So the important part with this now is that we want to start and finish at the rim lock. So I now put the rim lock back at 12 o'clock, which is up here, and I'll start just to the right of the rim lock and work my way around this way. So with the first tie lever, we're going to insert it just past the rim lock, and then keep the lever hooked under this little lever holder here, like that. So now that's not going to move anywhere, and I can work my way around the tyre, knowing that lever is not going to come off and hit me in the face. I can use two levers for this part because it's quite simple. Same again, we're going to do the reverse technique and now go the opposite way, putting the tyre back on. It'd be the same technique now if you had a tube. You'd have a tube here, you'd have the valve and rim lock about here, and you'd be doing the same technique, but like I said, just watching, you don't pinch the tube with the lever ends. So not getting too greedy, we're going to do it 3 to 4 inches at a time. Just watching, we try not to scratch the rim too much, like that. Now you can use your knee for parts of this to push down on the tyre, giving it a lot more release up here because it gets quite tight on the last bit with the pressure. So to keep our knee down this side. Like I said, it gets quite tight now, so watching these levers don't come out, hit us in the face. You can also just stand on it just to push down the bead. Now you'll notice I've gone a bit closer here now, because if you go too far apart and now I put a lever in there, you might accidentally snap the bead, which is the wires in the wall of the tyre. So we're going to do little bits now for the last bit. Same again, watching the levers don't pop out. And now this last bit's pretty easy because now it's released its tension. Remove the tyre lever, and now we can also remove this tyre lever because it's done its job to hold the tyre in place. Now we need to make sure that rim lock goes inside of the tyre. So we're going to lift the wheel up slightly. Using the tyre lever, push the rim lock back in so it's going to sit nice inside of the tyre. I'm going to get this lever part of the machine and push down on this tyre wall here. Like that. And then, as you can see, the rim lock is sat inside the bead there. So around this side of here and this side, you can see the tyre is fitted. Now with mousses, sometimes they won't bead properly until you start riding them. Whereas as you can see up here, it's on the bead. It's quite slack around this part here. So that's just natural with mousses. Obviously with tubes, when you pump the tube up, it'll push the tyre onto the bead. But don't worry if you're running mousses, if you've got this gap here, that's not a problem. As long as the rim lock beads itself onto the bead when doing it up, that will stay in place. And when you start riding the bike, the bead will pop off onto the tyre. But that was a pretty straightforward demonstration of how to change the tyre with a mousse fitted. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to change a tyre on a dirt bike. I'll see you next time and good luck with your tyre changes.